someone, Leo, explain what it's about. And yeah.
So they
Sounds
have
good. Thank you, Jim.
a lot of people, new members of the committee, maybe those are the ones.
I think there is one new member, and I'm not sure whether she's here or not.
Yeah, I believe Wendy Pena.
Wendy, yeah, I don't see Wendy at the moment. I think the rest of us have been around for a while. That's a nice painting behind you, or whatever it is, Maria.
Leo, this is Jay Mazer. I was unable to open the spreadsheet.
Let me try to forward it to you now, Jay. Let me see if I can.
Debbie forwarded it to me. It wouldn't open on my phone.
Yeah,
1 second,
well,
let me see if I can. See you again. Let's try that.
And just wanted to make a note that myself and Steve Simon are two members that can't participate in the rankings because of our positions in public service. So I won't be able to participate in this ranking. This was confirmed by the Manhattan Borough's president's office.
right. It's basically not voting if you have a conflict of interest.
Bingo.
Right.
You're saying no voting on those particular items that they are noting all of them.
On the whole process because of our oversight on budgeting for the city.
Okay.
Jay, I just sent it in another way. See if you got it, if it works.
Yeah, the thing that might help, Jay, is if you just copy the stuff into an email, because I believe he won't be able to open the spreadsheet with the software on his phone. So if he could just see, all the categories, that might help him. That first column.
Yeah. Let me screenshot it and send it to him through email. See if that works.
Yeah, some of us have to deal, and my heart goes out to Jay. It's much more difficult if you're trying to do this on a cell phone. I have two iPads. That makes it much easier. Well, and one of them is old, but yeah.
So I believe there's 4 of us. Jim, how many people do we need for quorum? Is it 6?
How many people are in the committee?
I believe it's 10.
If it's 10 people, then you are correct. We need 6. You need one more than half.
Oh no, it's 9. I'm sorry. Just recounted it.
Okay, 9, so half, and then we need 5 people.
All right, awesome. We'll wait for one more.
Yeah.
Hi all.
You are with us. There she is. And earlier than she said. Good thing we weren't talking behind your back.
And I believe with Debbie, we actually have quorum.
All right. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
All right. So, and who are we still missing?
We're missing Wendy Pena, Robin Cruz, I didn't see Bruce. Is Bruce on?
Oh, yep, there he is.
So Bruce is on.
I know it's sort of random, like who you see on your top row, but I've got Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chanel. Thank you, Leo, for getting us started. All right. So welcome to the October 4, 2021 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. We have a somewhat short agenda tonight. With both just DOT and then the committee discussing our district needs budget requests. I'd like to first introduce people from the committee that are here, as well as it looks like we have some CB12 board members. So people have met Leo Jimenez, the assistant chair of this committee. We have Bruce Robertson, Jim Berlin, Jay Mazer, Omar Tejada, and myself. So far, I'll introduce other committee members as they arrive. I'd also, sorry?
Omar with a new baby.
Omar with a new baby.
Congrats.
One of these days, I'm going to get to bump into that kid. All right, and for other CB12 board members, Maria Luna.
I'm here.
Hi, and let me just take a quick glance at. Do we have the council member here? Council member Rodriguez, or is that somebody from the office? Sidonis, is that you? You'll let me know. Okay. So I don't really have updates. I think what I want to do is, and Leo, if it's okay with you, I'm going to leave your summary to right after DOT goes. Let me also say, Jody Hearson, I am glad you're here because I'd like you to be around during the budgeting conversation. If you can stick with us through that item, I'd be most appreciative. With that, I'm going to hand over to Kimberly Rancourt, who wanted to just give us an introduction on a topic that they'll come back on with a more full presentation, but just some stuff that they wanted to share with us, that DOT wanted to share with us now. And then we can also just talk about Kimberly the next month or two, because I think you'll be back with us in November and December with some items that we've been tracking for quite some time.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. We're actually joined tonight by former Deputy Borough Commissioner Nina Heyman, who is now the Director of School Safety. And so she's going to be, after I just give a little bit of context, discussing the area of Amsterdam and Fort George Avenue that we're kind of taking a broad look at. She'll just share a little bit about our next steps. So she's on as well. And I'm going to share my screen. I have a very brief presentation.
And Chanel, if you can promote Nina Heyman.
I think she's
great.
already actually
Oh,
promoted.
she did float across. Okay.
Yeah. Let me just, sorry. Doing the 2 device thing, which always throws me off, but let me share this. Hi, Nina. Okay, so just to kick it off, again, 2 devices confusing me. So we're just going to talk through a little bit about this area of Fort George Avenue and Amsterdam Avenue up in the northern part of the borough. And we've, as I think most of you know, we've gotten some requests for safety improvements along Amsterdam Avenue and Fort George. So we'll talk a little bit about that and our sort of near-term plans. And then we've also, over the past year from CB, and I apologize if you hear bath time in the background, but we have had some requests for bike routes to be added in the district, especially north-south routes. And then we'll just talk through some of the upcoming next steps. So just looking at this area, and I know it's not labeled, but kind of talking through, we're looking up here, you can see the sports center up here, which is sort of where we have Fort George Avenue and then running into Amsterdam Avenue. So kind of looking north to south at just some of the projects that are underway and some of the key land uses. We do have a capital improvement project at the intersection of Fort George Hill, where we're looking to build out some of the pedestrian improvements that we put in previously. High Bridge Park runs along the east side, east or north, depending on which part of the curve you're looking at, from 188th to Fort George Hill. We have the big GW, George Washington Educational Campus up there from about 192nd to 193rd. We have the Isabella Center, Yeshiva moving south from 182nd to 186th on the east side of the street, and their plaza project there. We currently have an open street on Laurel Hill Terrace in the area. We have the Washington Bridge, which is obviously a key connection for buses and drivers and pedestrians. And then we have ongoing repairs on the bridge. And then of course you all are familiar with the 181st Street Busway pilot, which you can actually see that red paint in this aerial. It's that recent. And then of course, recent city bike expansion. So there's a lot going on in this area. And we just wanna talk through some of our initial thoughts on how we can address some of the issues. So we've gotten requests for safety improvements on Amsterdam Avenue, Fort George Avenue. Last fall, we got a letter from elected officials, yeshiva, schools, and community organizations asking for us to look for safety and traffic calming from 181st to 190th, I believe. And then CB12 also followed up with a resolution, similar request. And we know there's been a number of community complaints about speeding and reckless driving. You can see in this photo the sort of tire marks in the middle of the intersection, sort of demonstrating some of the challenges going on there. And then earlier this year, we got a request from I Challenge Myself, which is an after-school program at the educational campus up there, interested in making some safety improvements along the corridor as well, especially I think related to biking and other activities for students. So just looking at the bike lanes, because we have heard that there's an interest in having more bike connections, looking at the existing network, Amsterdam Avenue, extending really all the way down Amsterdam Avenue has a variety of different types of bike facilities. So up in this area, we have a mix of standard bike lanes and shared lanes on Amsterdam Avenue, Fort George Avenue, from all the way down from 110th Street. So that provides, this corridor provides connection to the protected bike lanes on Fort George Hill, which we know connect up to Dyckman Street. And then it also, along this corridor stretch of Amsterdam, we have the connection into 170th Street and Edgecombe Ave. And then a few years ago, DOT put out a Harlem River Bridges action plan where we called out the need for bike improvements along all of the Harlem River bridges, including Washington Bridge. So just thinking about that as well. And then back in 2017, we actually presented to this board and to CB9 a traffic calming project that included bike lanes, and we did move forward in CB9. We did not get support up in CB12, so just throwing that out there as well as we look at the full corridor of Amsterdam. And so on the schools, on the sort of northern stretch of Fort George Ave and Amsterdam, our school safety team is taking a look at this area. That's why Nina's on, and she'll get into a little more detail after I'm done, but they are launching some preliminary outreach right now to local stakeholders, doing some presentations, and she has that presentation that she can kind of flip through and just let you know what we are talking to the community about. As I mentioned, we're working with I Challenge Myself. So starting this month, we'll be working with students there to develop a proposal for traffic calming and safety improvements along this stretch from 188th to 193rd. We'd love to do walkthroughs this fall, and if the members of the CB that would like to participate, that would be great, especially if we can get the students out there as well to have that experience. And then we hope to come back this winter as early as December to present a proposal with those students for safety improvements along that corridor. And this is just our initial stakeholder list, so you guys can have an idea of who we have started reaching out to. We'd be happy to hear from you on any additional suggestions of groups or individuals or whoever else in the area. Of course, this is also includes, we've done some preliminary outreach and we'll continue to reach out to to elected officials and other groups as well. Then just thinking about the bike improvements as we look at the longer corridor, just as a, revisiting what we presented, and this is 2018, but I believe it was actually 2017, where we put in a design similar to what is in this is the part of Amsterdam that runs from 162nd to the north, including this part at 172nd, sorry, where we years ago put in this design with turn bays and traffic calming and bike lanes. And so we also have done that from 110th to 155th Street. I think it did go in 2018, even though we presented it earlier. But there is now a gap between 155th and 162nd, where we have the same type of design north and south of that section, but there's no standard bike lanes on that gap. So just something to think about and maybe to look at with you guys moving forward. And then just looking at Amsterdam Avenue in general and knowing that there are some really critical bike connections, how can we look at opportunities in the future to upgrade those facilities? So looking at next steps, as we mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot going on in this area. So we just want to let you know that we're aware of that and that we're very interested in making safety improvements. And we want to kind of keep all of these projects coordinated. So the capital project improvements at Fort George Hill, Highbridge Park, looping in City Park Department, the Washington Bridge repairs are ongoing, the underneath First Street Busway, we're still monitoring, and then there's interest in building out the Plaza issue. So this is just kind of an overview, and then I'll let, we can take questions now, or I can have Nina just kind of jump into maybe elaborate a little bit on the school safety project and even share their presentation that they've been using to reach out to stakeholders in the area. So I think you guys can actually ask questions because I have to pull up that other presentation. I did not link it to this one.
Actually, why don't we have Nina sort of go into the deeper dive on the school safety aspects, and then we'll take questions all together.
And Kim, I can pull it up if you want.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Hi. So I recognize some faces here. So nice to see everybody who I haven't seen in a few years. As Kim mentioned, I used to be the Manhattan Deputy VC, so used to spend a lot of time with CB12 and always enjoyed working with you guys. Okay. So wait, sorry, I can't talk and do this at the same time. I'll do it wrong. So give me 1 second. Okay. Can folks see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So as Kim mentioned, I'm sorry, I should say my name again is Nina Heyman. I'm the Director of School Safety at the Department of Transportation. And so school safety is the group responsible for improving streets near schools to help K through 12 students. We're different from safety ed. They're the ones who go into the schools and work with kids on how to cross safer and teach them about vehicular safety. And we work closely, we work very closely with that group. So we're here, as Kim mentioned, sort of looking at this one stretch of Fort George Amsterdam Ave. And what I'm showing you here just very quickly, we've been reaching out to all the schools in the area, just sitting down with them this past few weeks to sort of hear their feedback on the area. There's just sort of blank slate presentations. And a lot of this, I think, will be very familiar to community board members. But to some schools who haven't worked with DOT much before, the sort of first thing we do is just sit down and explain like what DOT does and doesn't do. Just so they sort of understand like what's in our universe and what isn't. And DOT safety education comes with us to those meetings so that we can offer them, you know, we're school safety, we can help you improve the safety of the street, here's safety ed, and they can work with you if you have students who are, you know, if you want to have a curriculum in your school. So these are just the safety ed files. This is the, you know, the slide already that Kim shared. Obviously, there's a lot of schools up here, which is why it was of interest to us. And we actually started looking at this corridor after we got the letter from the electeds and the community board. And then the I Challenge Myself After School program at GW campus up here. We've partnered with them before on other safety projects. And it's a really great chance for us to sort of work with kids, and they sort of learn about transportation planning and urban planning and street redesigns. And, you know, they go out in the streets, they use the radar guns, they learn about, you know, like how wide the street is, how to redesign the street. So it's a really great chance to work together. And so we're looking forward to kicking off with them later this month. But so this corridor, you know, has high volumes of students, and as Kim mentioned, a lot of safety concerns. Again, this is just the deck that we show to schools when we meet with them. Injury and crash data way higher than we'd like to see in a school area. We've gone out and done some preliminary speeding investigations, clocked people going 49. Obviously, that's almost double the speed limit, so completely unacceptable to us. Majority of vehicles are speeding on this street. And yeah, evidence of donuts and sort of other, you know, sort of unsafe driving behavior. Again, not what you want to see right next to a playground. Street is quite wide, also unsafe. And then this is what we go through explaining what DOT does and doesn't do. And I think this, you know, community board audience knows this very well, but it's helpful for us to do this when we meet with schools, because your average principal may not, you know, fully understand who does and doesn't control the buses, for example. So we just kind of go over what we do and don't do with it. I did that quickly, so I didn't use up too much of your time, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks.
Actually, I wouldn't mind having the DOT doesn't do slides
okay.
for me personally, because
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we get those.
Maybe do you recognize that school one that I just sent you? That's the one I sent you a picture of recently, because I know you guys are trying to figure out the parking around schools.
Okay.
Great.
Can
All
folks
right.
see this? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, some of our bread and butter, you know, the traffic signals, the street lights, we resurface the roadways and all the signs on the streets with the parking regulations. That's all DOT. In addition, we do a lot of work to try and make our streets safer. That's kind of the primary way we measure our success as an agency, is whether injuries and fatalities are going up and down. So here on your top left, you have turn lanes, what we call road diets, where, you know, often the street has 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other. And we come in and do what's called a 4-to-3 conversion. We make it 1 lane each direction, and then the middle lane is dedicated for turns, where there's left turns, and where there isn't a left turn, and you can put an island in. And in the middle, you just put channelization. You know, we always get traffic counts beforehand. We only do this when we see that the volumes are low enough that we won't cause crazy congestion in putting in a road diet. But these, you know, we've done this all over the city, and they're very successful. I think they reduce injuries. I don't want to get this wrong. Yeah, I can come back to you, but by a good amount. I think it's 22. We close slip lanes where, you know, people can make a hard right or hard left turn instead of kind of coming through at a loose circular turn, which people often go quickly on. So we close slip lanes often. We'll make a street 1-way or 2-way, or if it was westbound, we make it eastbound. So we will convert the direction of a roadway, and we put in protected bike lanes, which, you know, are, even if you never ride a bike, having a protected bike lane on your street reduces your chance of being injured as a pedestrian or as a vehicular occupant, just because they help calm down the roadway and allocate the space better. We also put in curb extensions next to, I mean, anywhere, but my group does them next to schools. As you see at a school here, sort of improves visibility, gives pedestrians more space, especially helpful in the morning and afternoon periods when there's a lot of kids on the sidewalk. If we have a maintenance partner who will water and weed planters and sweep out the space, we can put planters out there. We install benches, which are very popular. We put in bike racks. And And so in my unit, school safety, we're not really mode specific. So we do pedestrian islands, we do turn signals, we do bike lanes, we do everything. But we also have specific safety improvements that are really school specific that we work on. We really don't like to see double parking next to schools. It's not safe if you have, shorter pedestrians navigating between double parked parent vehicles and school buses. So we try and reduce that by putting in these school loading zones, which are typically no standing school day 7 to 4 at schools, to try and clear out that curb so people can get directly to the sidewalk. We'll put in school slow zones, which are 15 or 20 miles an hour, right next to schools. 15 if we can put a bump there, 20 if we can't. And we only do these on sort of, 1 and 2 lane streets. The thinking is, if you put a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on, Queens Boulevard, people aren't going to drive 15 because the design speed of the roadway is faster. But on a lot of streets that look like this, we'll reduce the speed limits. And then teacher parking is something which hasn't been, this is, City Hall level decision. No new teacher parking has been given out in, I think decades, but schools that have teacher parking are allowed to keep it. And sometimes we move it around. If they have teacher parking on the frontage where all the school buses come, we'll swap the teacher parking to the back side of the school and ask the teachers to walk around so that the kids can come in the front door. So we do sort of reshuffling of teacher parking as appropriate. So those are sort of the big school specific things that we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me just ask one clarifying question, then one question of Nina, because we have you here.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you existed. We get a lot of school things. So I'm gonna take advantage. And then I'll open it up to the committee and the other CB12 board members and the public. So Kimberly, like understanding the gap that we're left with between 155 and 162 at the break in the bike lanes, which, I dislike a broken bike lane quite a bit. And I remember that moment when we did not support that presentation. But like things like the other traffic calming that were not the bike lane, did those end up happening over time? Like, is there any, turn lanes or it's just sort of, it's neither the bike lanes got built nor any changes to the roadbed otherwise?
We didn't make any changes to the roadway between
those 7
155
blocks.
and 152, as far as I understand it, yeah.
Okay. And do you anticipate, it sounds like when you come back in December, we're going to be focused at the northernmost section, but would you be coming back as well to talk to us about that stretch?
Yeah, I think if there's interest, so I think, because we've heard from community members and the board that there is some interest in the bike network and making improvements. That's a gap that's sort of glaring on the map and that we had put together a proposal for. So it's something that we could come back and revisit if there's interest, I think.
Yeah.
And, we're obviously not in our implementation season right now, so there's no real timeline crunch, but if it's something that you're interested in seeing again, we could talk about coming during the winter at some point.
Yeah, I think that would be good because also would like to understand sort of what the implications are of not having made those changes over a 7 block apart from the bike and understanding sort of what improvements you have seen or not making those changes years ago on south and north. Okay, and then my question for Nina, which doesn't relate to this presentation specifically, is that so sort of 2 parts relating to no standing around schools. So no standing in the main is about school buses, as I understand it. So the first technical question is, what determines how many yards of no standing zone a school gets? And so, for example, if it seemed like we have a school somewhere that has acres of it, or many yards, and they don't have school buses coming in, is there a conversation to be had? And 2, relate or sub 1B is, we have in certain places, we've gotten questions from about school buildings that have a no standing zone, but don't really have buses. Like, so if you have a census that's mostly walking distance, you don't, if it's like a zone school, you don't necessarily have buses coming in. Or parents dropping off for that matter. So that's my question.
Okay, really good question. So, yeah, I'd say the parents dropping off is often what causes the double parking. We have a lot of schools that, we work at, 2,000 schools around the city, and often you'll have a school which has maybe only 1 or 2 school buses, but if you go out and do observations, you'll see 100 parent vehicles show up, and that gets crazy really quickly.
Okay.
But we're constantly tinkering with these loading zones. So I think, whenever we hear from somebody that the loading zone is too big or too small, we just, we go out there, we do observations, we meet with the school, and we can adjust.
Right.
So
if a school had a lot of if they had a lot of parent drop-offs, and they could conceivably have a lot of no standing zones, acreage. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to go, because we have Omar Tejada first question, then Jim Berlin, and then if that's it from the committee, then Maria Luna. So Omar, you go ahead.
Great, thank you. First, I want to say thank you for the presentation and taking the time to walk us through it. I think that corridor has been a nuisance in this neighborhood for as long as I can remember. So I'm very happy to see that's actually being addressed in some way, shape, or form. The other part to this that I want to say, full disclosure, I used to be a captain for iChallenge myself. So I actually did help the children complete their end of the year goal, which is to do a 100-mile bike ride from here up the Putnam Valley Trail. And they come back and we guide them all the way back to George Washington High School. I think it's an amazing program. Teaches children about long-term goals and working towards them and whatnot. So I'm really happy to hear that you're partnering with them and addressing that neck of the woods, because in my years helping them, it's one of the things that more often than not comes up. The children don't feel safe in that area. The trail that they use to connects through that park. So they'll ride their bikes up the park and then go through that area. Through the back of the school. So just really glad to see that that's being addressed. And thank you for that. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Omar.
Thanks.
Well said. Jim?
You're muted.
Hello. 2 things. Could you, by the way, put there's a map you had showing all the schools you were working with on Northern Amsterdam Avenue. Could you put that back up? That one, very good.
Yeah.
Now that I have 2 points. One of them is that they are in fact 5 schools at the northern end, but they're all in one building. And it looks like they're scattered all over the place, but they're all it's a campus and they're all in one building. So that looks a little.
Sorry. Sorry to clarify. Yeah, the purple is the box. The purple is the building and the dots are the schools.
Well, the purple is the entire campus. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing is, I don't know what PS 138 is. I Googled it and I found some school, heaven only knows where. But my main point is that and then I have a second one too, is that there's a bunch of schools on 182nd Street, and I believe they signed the letter as well. And they would benefit from whatever it is. Now, maybe you're going to do it as a separate thing, because I think there too, there are at least 2 schools sharing a building, and then they go back and forth across the street. And again, these various, so that, and again, like I said, I believe they signed the letter. And then just to stretch matters even further, and again, I don't want to expand your project to all the universe, but all these schools are sort of near one another, and insofar as they could coordinate, because they're different. I was a teacher. This would be a very good thing. Also on 182nd Street and Wadsworth Avenue, are two other schools. There's my alma mater, PS 132, and then there's a little school across the street in a building that used to be the precinct house. So again, now I don't know whether those two signed the letter or not, but I'm pretty sure the ones, the ones on 182nd Street in Amsterdam, they did sign the letter. So I was just wondering what was going on with all these other schools, because in my mind, again, you could make this nice L-shaped, well, backward L-shaped consortium. And again, maybe that's, I'm asking for too much. Thank you.
Well, I think I can answer just quickly, and maybe Nina has something to add, but I think the reason why we wanted to come here now and kind of talk about all the things going on in this area is to, in part to hear more things from you like that, but also just to kind of say that we are looking at this big picture. We know there's a lot going on here, and this is where we're starting, in part because of I challenged myself reaching out, and just because we feel like there's a lot of potential with this location. But I think moving south is something we're really interested in looking at as we move forward. So I think we kind of see this as a phased project that we'll want to build on, and this is our starting point. But certainly expanding and moving beyond it would be great.
That's very good to hear, because again, the more of this stuff we can get. And just to give you a little history, PS 189 is where my Boy Scout troop met when I was a kid. Let me just finish with my little story. And it turns out a traffic light got installed because one of my friends got killed by a car on Amsterdam Avenue. So, the fact that this is already in your program has wonderful history.
But what a tragic history. And yeah, so Kimberly, let's not lose sight of this point, that understanding that probably the presentation in December is going to focus on the highlighted areas by virtue of the I Challenge Myself project, but that we don't want to lose track of all the rest of it. 100 down to 181st. I see a picture on Facebook. Well, when Facebook is operating, like every other day at 181st in Amsterdam. And I do think that, given the history on that stretch that got turned down, that ended up, dealing with the whole thing is important as well. And to Jim, I would just say that I think Duarte and Dos Puentes were involved, I think, in the letter, and Wheels, and all the 182nd. So I think they were all involved, and they might find it interesting though to come when you come back in December. So let's try to make sure all those connections are made.
We do have Wheels on our outreach list. I'm happy to add other folks too, I think, and also just thinking that in the southern portion around 181st Street. We're collecting a lot of data as part of the monitoring for the busway, so that will kind of.
Oh, right. So we can
way to move forward from there, but we want to kind of see how that's working as we collect that data and analyze what's going
on. Maria, it's time for you. Hello.
Hi, thank you. Since I'm not a member of the committee, but I am interested in what's happening. Just to add a little bit to what Jim Berlin mentioned to the part below 182nd Street, I think you have to also remember that soon on the corner of 184th Street, there's going to be a humongous building that is going to have a hotel, a combination of retail space and things like that. Right across the street from that is a firehouse, and the little bridge that comes from the Bronx that ends on 184th Street. So you need to look into that massive area to see how you're going to, set up some of the, whatever you have on the letter that I forgot about it. But my concern right now, I just want you to make sure that you have to come back because of that area. It's going to be extremely important. When the hotel is completed, and the area, the bridge coming from, to the Bronx and going to the Bronx, that particular area has a tremendous impact on the buses going back and forth, for the two boroughs. But I like to focus now my concern about the lower part on 55th to 162nd Street and Amsterdam Avenue. Number one, I need to ask, I have to get down on my knees if I have to get a bench on Broadway, 157th Street by the subway station and number one train going downtown. We need to have a bench there. It is really a terrible, corner. There is the number 5 bus and number 4 bus stops there. The landlord from the Chipotle place decided not to push against it, but we need to have a bench for, especially for the elderly people, to wait for the buses when they decide to come down. But my concern right now is around Amsterdam Avenue from 155th Street to 162nd Street. Just to remind you that 155th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, there is a PS 128. Across the street, there is a residence for seniors. Then going up a little to the 157th, 58th Street, there is another residence for seniors. There is a 160 to 163rd Street, the Duke Ellington School, PS 406, one of those things. Then going up, there is a residence for elderly people, and it's a combination, family and elderly people. And that is a school also, the school number 406, right? Something like that. I don't remember the number. But then going up a little bit is like the conversion between Amsterdam and ending on 162nd Street, Amsterdam and St. Nicholas, where the buses number 100 and 101, merge and they going down one way and the other. Before you make a commitment to have any bicycles, set up in that area, take a look at the needs to have that, those things there, because I would urge you to take a look more for parking for teachers that are having bikes set up that are probably not going to be used, but if, a low income community. I'm not opposed to bike, but we have to be a little careful where
All
those.
right, Maria, I think we've gone a lot of minutes. All right, so your main upshot is just that we take a thoughtful look at that area that's gotten
that corridor
no
from
treatment.
155th to
Yeah.
162nd, and
Yeah.
then the bench on 157th.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, so I do not see any more questions. Oh, I should actually say we have another CB12 member, Danny Bonilla here. Oh, Marshall Vanderpool. Oh, sorry, I may have, there you go.
Okay, I'm Marshall Vanderpool. I'm the first vice president of the Dyckman Resident Association, Dyckman Houses. And I'm not sure if I'm going a little far afield on this, but I was at a meeting a few months ago regarding Dyckman Rest. I guess that's that location on Dyckman and Nagel at the base of Fort George Hill, which is not on the map. And Parks Department has, I guess that meeting was Parks, and they were showing plans on what they wanted to do as far as converting the rest that's already there. And one of my questions would be, and you can park it in your parking lot and maybe reach out to others, but my concern was with the traffic patterns at that intersection. And there is as you're proceeding west on Dyckman Street, there's a sharp left that kind of goes into one of those slip entries to get onto Fort George Hill and go up. And I had posed the question to Parks, well, can't we seal that up? And that would afford more protection to our children. And they said, really, you got to speak to Department of Transportation or whatever. And so I'm putting that out here now, that maybe as part of part of transportation's effort with this, that they need to close that slip curve entrance in from Dykeman Street onto Fort George Hill. And maybe that would afford even a little more space for parks to design this space. And also, this park would probably be utilized by the schools that are over on 10th Avenue and Dykeman, Harlem River Drive, where it's all comes together. I foresee that there would be a lot of children coming up that side to use that park. So I'll just land my plane now and leave that for further consideration. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Vanderpool. I mean, that does take us a little off topic, which we would normally take up sort of after the other parts of the agenda, but while I have DOT here, Kimberly, do you have a better recollection without getting into the details? I sort of feel like that's an intersection that's gotten a lot of attention over the years, but it's like a knot that never gets quite untied. And so, I mean, what is your recollection? And then other than that, I would say, I think we need to just get back to Mr. Vanderpool, you know, in a separate way, and maybe I can connect because, you know, having a kind of connection like this with Dykeman houses writ large is really helpful in terms of collecting feedback that residents are in mass. So then I'll probably want to connect you two so that you have that. And I see Lyle's here as well, right? So get all this.
I think he's been following that project a little more closely than I have. So Lyle, feel free to speak up, but it certainly is a location where we have been looking at it in collaboration with Parks for some time. And I think it is moving forward, which is why there was a meeting hosted by Parks, but we can follow up with them on that sibling question. As I understood it, that if I'm thinking of it correctly, that piece was already closed to vehicles. So we can follow up and I can touch base with them. But Lyle, I don't know if you have anything to add about that on the current status or next steps.
If I could just jump back in for a second.
Well, actually, Mr. Van, let's, because I don't want to, we really have to tie up sort of this agenda item, but Lyle, if you do have anything that you want to add?
So,
yeah, I guess as far as a brief history, at least from when I've been here, which is about a little more than 5 years, I know that we had done some work on Fort George Hill, I think prior to my being here at DOT, where we had made some changes to, I think we had done the angled parking at that time and a couple of other adjustments along that hill going down to Dykeman. We have heard in the past as far as potential ideas to make that area safer. The idea of closing that particular slip, we can take back. I know you've done the bike lanes in that area. We've also been speaking, I know Kimberly mentioned with Parks recently about that project by High Bridge. We're also speaking with DDC. I think that they're working around that area as well, by the Dykeman station, by the one train, to make that a little more pedestrian friendly. And at least from a DOT perspective, we are looking at the area. I think we have some capital work from that stretch of Dykeman going east, where we are collaborating with Parks and DDC to see what we can do together and separately. Just a matter of timing and different projects that are going on. But there is a lot of focus going on at that intersection in particular right now. So those conversations that you had with Parks, I think it was in February, was when that meeting was with Parks, where they presented to CB12. We've had meetings after that with them, and we're trying to schedule some more. So we'll probably come back to you with some suggestions and some ideas in the future. And like I said, there's a lot of focus going on in the area. So I'd say stay tuned, and we're gonna have some information for you as far as,
We'll pull together like a little bit of a summary of where things sit as we know it for the next meeting, if that's helpful, just to kind of pull the pieces together. You're on mute, I think, Debbie.
Yeah, because and sort of just to segue into the last thing for you and Lyle, is that it would be great to have a summary. Lyle, if you could drop your email into the chat so Mr. Vanderpool can pick up your contact info and we can make that happen. But, you know, the changes on Dykeman, both on the roadway and the bike lanes, if my memory serves, you were not able to implement the easternmost portion that would have affected that part that Mr. Vanderpool is describing because of some issues with like buses and this and that. But also a lot of changes did happen. So I always like to know, and then we never get to hear, how does it turn out and what have the impacts been and sort of what's happened. So if we can sort of bring this back, that intersection. But I would also say that with the one train being made accessible and an elevator being added, that Fort George is about to get, you know, it's going to be a construction site for a year. So we got that going on too. But so let's not lose this. I think it's something that I think in a lot of all its different pieces, I'd certainly like to have this be a proper agenda item. And just talking about agenda items, will DOT be able to come to our November committee as we mentioned recently to talk about the busway?
That is still our plan. So I will check in with our transit folks and see how the data collection analysis is going. But that's what we've been talking about for several months as a timeline.
Okay, great. And then we'll think that we might see you in December with this work. And okay, great. If one of you can stick around when we talk capital budget, we don't have a lot for you guys, but I have some, you know, I wouldn't mind, Lyle, if you can stick with us, because I think we have some things we might need clarification on capital or expense or what have you. And Kimberly, if you have updates that sort of relate to the budgeting and can stick around, we'll move on to that now.
Lyle probably has most of those updates, but I know you had asked about the Riverside, so I did check in with our PED team on that. If you wanted to get that update whenever the time is right.
All right, well, why don't we do that, because that's, as far as I know, not going to affect the district needs. So the committee might remember that we passed a resolution and the board passed a resolution in support of a project that would make a lot of pedestrian improvements, which sort of strikes me as an understatement, along Riverside Drive on the sort of in and out of Trans-Manhattan Expressway, and then also those sort of entries down into the, what's it called, Fort Washington Park and the Greenway, that sort of are like urban myths and people can't actually get to if you don't use the 181st Street flyover. So it's like, call it north of 165th Street to about what would be the equivalent of 172nd, 173rd, but at the time it wasn't fully funded or grants hadn't come through to do that work. And so I asked Kimberly to kind of find out, is that going to happen? Because it's a mess there. It's an absolute horrid mess. And it would be great to have that project go forward.
I just wanted to say thanks to Nina, and if you didn't want to stay on, if that agenda item is wrapped up.
Oh, thanks, Nina. It was so nice to meet you.
Because you miss these board meetings, but
I do. I love you all. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to do walkthroughs with anyone who wants to look at the school safety project. Thanks again.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nina.
so I reached out to our PED team for the update there, and it's one of those projects where we are using federal funding, which is great because it means it's funded, but also means it has to go through. I mean, we're able to, our normal implementation process is actually pretty quick, I think, for agencies. And so in this case, when we use that kind of funding, we have to go through the state review and approvals, and this is packaged with several other pedestrian improvement projects. And so unfortunately, it's like the timing for implementation, we're planning for 2023. So it's a much different timeline than our standard, we often present and then implement within the same year. And this is unfortunately on a slower schedule, but it is still in the works and it is funded.
Okay.
I wish it was better news for you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the district needs process. I'm just looking to see if, oh, wait a minute. We've got one more hand. Cristobal Vivar. Did you have something you wanted to ask of DOT?
Yes, thank you so much. I am promoting a street renaming, co-naming, I think you call it, in Isham Park. It's to memorialize, just a second, my battery is about to die.
Okay, sorry. This now is not the time actually to add to our agenda, but I just want to say,
yes,
the co-naming process that would run through this committee happens in April and December. Wait, sorry, I just said that wrong. April and October, those are the two opportunities, but that has to do with streets. If it's within a park, I actually don't know how that happens, but I presume you need to go to parks. Right?
So next
Kimberly,
week,
DOT would not, so it does make sense that you would think it would be here because we do street co-namings, but we don't
yes.
do parks. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And there's a meeting next Tuesday with the parks, right? I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I
In
think
case-
that meeting
In case Parks Department doesn't want to do it, and I want to do it through you,
that's
it will
great.
have to be until April.
You would have to be until April because this you would have, yeah, but we can get a package to you if you contact the office. And Chanel, I think you're still on. There's a package, but I think it's also available online, which has the application for street co-namings and then the requirements and then what you need to have at the ready. Come
Yeah, we
April,
have
that's the way it goes.
186 signatures.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go figure that out. We're here.
Okay.
October.
All right. So I'll try Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I circulated to the committee. Hopefully everybody has. I don't know if you remember that last year we kind of moved on to a Google Sheet, thanks to Mariella Graham, to make our voting easier. So I just want to go over quickly and then just get feedback fast because I might have put something in capital that's supposed to be in expense as far as DOT is concerned, but go over what has changed from last year. If people remember, last year, we tried to refresh our lists a bit and kind of see what made sense, sort of to continue to carry forward. Actually, I'm going to interrupt myself to say we have 2 new items that also have people who want to speak to them at the meeting tonight. So, which I don't think we've had for a few years. So I'm looking forward to that. But just so to summarize, on the capital side, we always have an item that relates to making more of the subway stops ADA compliant. So all I did was take off the IRT at Dykeman and the 181st Street on the A. Just because they've announced that. For now, I've kept 168th on the IRT because I feel like that's far enough in the future. It doesn't hurt to keep that on there. I have added an item, but actually DOT just let me know if this should be under expense because I've added it in capital, that if people remember and a community member is here tonight that can answer any questions about it. Jody Herson had come to us and she's done a lot of work around safety improvements and on the upper roadway of Riverside Drive from 158th up to 165th. And I'm surmising that anything that would be required in that stretch is not something that's funded on the DOT side, nor is it sort of set up as a project yet on the DOT side. So I've added that here. So if we have any questions, if people need some refresher of what the residents there have requested, Jody is here tonight and she can probably speak to that. The other group that we have tonight is with respect to a street repair project for West 174th Street between Audubon and Amsterdam. I think this is one that I brought up maybe last month or the month before. Some residents of that block have been in contact with the district manager. So I've added that item and we have a representative from that project, so to speak, on 174th here tonight, if we have questions there. And then we have some carryover items with subway station rehabilitation. And then on the expense side, we have mostly carryovers. We had a sort of a general item about, sorry, some old rankings that I'll erase out of there, but oh, wait a minute, I should be sharing screen. But we have a general item about maintenance and repairs for subway stations. On the expense side, we have fares, which I don't think has gotten a restoration of funding. So we had that from last year. A traffic study, which on sort of the hospital area. And the same for the 207th Street corridor. And then a new item that's been added is for DOT is some funding for lighting in the parks. So even though most things in parks are just managed by parks, the street lights in parks are actually DOT. So there are some requests coming over for parks that actually end up having, they need to be on our budget. And then we had a kitty for pothole repairs, pedestrian crosswalks, that kind of thing. Sorry, belatedly, I am going to share my screen. Okay. So I am going to ask that if Yomaris can just take a minute or 2 minutes and just give us a little more background, or say whatever you want to advocate for on 174th Street.
Yes, of course. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak, representing these tenants that are having so much trouble with this issue with the block on 174th between Audubon and Amsterdam. Well, it has been 3 years since we've been working with District 12 and Mr. Vinay Sitter-Smith, trying to see if we can fix that problem that is causing so much trouble, not only because of the sinking of the road that is damaging the building structures, but the noise that is caused by the cars that go by the block and not letting the residents sleep and wake up in the middle of the night with scare because the noise is very strong and the cars being damaged. I understand, and I have been advised that this is a capital project and that the DOT has not funding for it, but I would like to ask to see if there's any chance that this be included in the next budget, so we can have this repair and prevent worse damages to the structures of the buildings and the peace of the residents in the area, in the block. I have sent notices to our Councilman Idanis, our Congressman Adriano and Ms. Carmen de la Rosa. They are aware of what's going on with the block. So, and I congratulate the work that the district has been doing. District 12 is doing wonderful work with all the areas in our Northern Manhattan and the District 12. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I ask that you may be able to, Ms. Devi, thank you so much. And please help us get in the budget for the following year so we can work with this problem. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you've done with the office, over these years, trying to get visibility on this project. Jim, did you have something before I move on to Jody?
Yes, I do. The previous speaker mentioned that this damage, which I'm not familiar with, is actually harming the buildings. If that's actually the case, then it sounds like there's an emergency and they ought to get the Department of Buildings involved, and then the thing will actually get fixed yesterday if the buildings are actually being damaged in some substantial way. Now, again, I'm not familiar with, are you familiar, Debbie, with what's going on there?
I am not. However, Chanel and Ebenezer shared some pictures that Ms. Smith had shared with them.
Can you show them?
Let me.
Because again, if it's, if it is in fact, and I don't know what the deal is, causing structural problems to the buildings, that's something that we don't create a capital project for. That's an emergency. From my point of view.
Okay, one sec. Oh, okay. Just give me one more sec.
Perdona, yo creo que tenía. ¿Qué pasó?
Levanta la mano otra vez, que está diciendo Kimberly que eso, si los edificios están afectando con esto, que eso no es una emergencia, que hay que llamar al departamento de building.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a live mic. All right, now I'm going to just share into the picture. Okay.
So it's those potholes?
Yes, these are in the center of the block, but there is a hole in front of 526. If you well,
You have a picture of that too?
I see this is further down. I'm concerned about the big hole in front of 526 and 515. Those two buildings are, I mean, but I what I'm saying is, I guess not the building department, but the emergency. Okay, let me show you where the hole is, which is a big dent going down that you could see the park car.
Oh, that
hole there.
Uh-huh.
That's causing trouble because it's bringing down the sidewalk. If you see the sidewalk is sinking right there, this is right in front of 526. And
Right, but no, I see that, and I'm so glad we have this picture. To me, this sounds like this is not a capital project. This is a plain old repair that they have. Now, there may be something going on underneath the surface. So maybe we have to reach out to, actually, we have people from DOT here to find out if, because notice there's that whole patching all the way across the street. So maybe something was installed or repaired. So something's going on down there. That's the whole deal. And
they have patching. I've seen patching. I think they did that around 2018. They patched and it went down again. It's like
right, that's yeah. You have if it keeps on going down. We actually had something on Haven Avenue like that, and they kept on patching it and they kept on going down. So this could be some real underground flaw that
So
someone should be looking into much harder.
I think that is the issue, is that it's not that DOT wasn't willing to come out and do patches. It's that getting the more substantial work done.
Finding out what is it that is under that is causing the sinking, because when they opened the hydrant right there, there's a hydrant right there on Audubon, and usually the entire summer they open it. The water comes directly to that hole, and it's creating that during the summer creates more problem, not only for the sidewalk, but it's creating problems for the understructure. And 526 is the building that's being more affected. This building, which I am the manager of that building. So it sometimes, I look at it and it worries me, because it's, as I go, I see it's sinking more, not the building, but the sidewalk.
The sidewalk.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that
okay.
area where that
Now, I think also, Debbie, we should ask Ebenezer Smith to get involved in this particular, because again, something is going on there.
He has been. He's the one who sent.
Well, maybe he has to be more
Debbie, if
involved.
I may, this is Ebenezer, if I may.
There you are. Excellent.
Yes, here I am.
Excellent.
Yes, I have been working with this issue for the last 3 years. I brought the DOT commissioner several times to see this condition, and he agrees. He recommended that this street need to be reconstructed, because it seems like for somehow the street is sinking. DEP went there and inspect the sewer line, and that is some type of leak, maybe underneath, and the curb is sinking. So the recommendation of the DOT said that they need to reconstruct the street, but they don't have the funding. And since they don't have the funding, the residents from this location, they came before you guys asking to add funding for the capital project. That DOT said that they don't have the funding to do it. So the commissioner is aware, Con Edison is aware. So I brought almost all the agencies that may possible involved there. And the conclusion is that they need to reconstruct the street, but they don't have the funding.
Thank you, Ebenezer, for that clarification. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on capital budget. I've edited to reflect its reconstruction, not just repair. And I just want to give Jody Harrison an opportunity. Jody, if you just want to spend 1 minute reminding what the sort of bigger features of the upper roadway request that you had highlighted as suggestions to address the problems included, just briefly, because it's been a while at this point. Wait, do we still have Jody? One sec. Okay. Jody, are you here and can you unmute? Jody?
There I
Okay,
am.
okay.
There I am. Sorry, I'm not good at Zooming. First off, thank you very much, everybody. We presented a pedestrian safety petition back in March, and it basically represented the upper roadway of Riverside Drive from 158 to 165 and really addressed pedestrian safety issues. We have it's a single lane roadway that runs north, and we have parking on the east side and then the park and sidewalk on the west side. And the problem that we have is that we don't have any loading unloading zones, and all the large trucks that, whatever it is, FedEx, Fresh Direct, they all park on the sidewalk, making it really unsafe for pedestrians on that walkway. We have no calming methods whatsoever along this roadway. There used to be stop signs, I understand, and crosswalks. They no longer exist. So we really need DOT, if possible, to take a look at that as well. In doing that, of course, there's always concerns, because when you put in loading unloading zones, you're definitely taking away parking spaces. So it's something that we have to consider for sure. But in the process also of having all of these trucks and cars parking on the sidewalk, it is totally messed up the sidewalk. So the sidewalk itself is really dangerous, and in some cases non-existent. I reached out to Julio Batista at Presbyterian Hospital in the last several months, and he's also gotten involved because he's very interested in the intersection at 165 and taking a look at that for pedestrian safety concerns as well. There's really only one crosswalk on the northern side of the intersection for pedestrians to cross on. So would love DOT to take a look at that. And then at 158, it looks like we did a lot on the southern side of that intersection around the Grinnell, but we did not address the northern intersection at all. When you decided not to do, thank goodness, the single lane south, traffic direction, I think everything just sort of stopped. So we don't have any handicap ramping on that side. The other concern, which may not be you, but Riverside Park between 160 and 165, Julio is very concerned about that because there's no park lighting along that stretch of sidewalk.
Okay.
Debbie, I think I sent you an invite, but Julio has set up a meeting on October 18th at 10 o'clock with our elected officials. And we're going to be doing a tour of the area. It's going to include Sean, Mark, and at this point, Carmen Del La Rosa and Jennifer Hoppa's going to come. And I'm hoping you're coming too, Debbie, if you can make it. And that's it.
Okay. So for purposes of this process, the 165th Street intersection, I'm going to separate because there is that's sort of a little bit of a separate process. And the park lighting, I think we've dealt with, and then, because that's the only piece of the park stuff that we do have. And so we have an item on this. So I guess, what for the committee members, I just want you to remember that that what I'm describing here would be covering any, I guess we should include the analysis and then any implementation connected to a recommendation, be it loading zone, crosswalk, sidewalk repair, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what this item refers to. And I guess, Kimberly, if you're still here, or Lyle, I guess I just want to confirm that when you do that stuff like crosswalks or sidewalk stuff or loading zone redos, does that come from expense or capital? I'm presuming it's well, actually, I don't know. I put it in capital, but I could see it being expense too. Lyle, do you know?
Yeah. And if I recall, in some instances, it's case by case. In some instances, it's expense. In some instances, it's capital. We do have the ability to do certain things, with materials in-house. So we wouldn't need to use capital funds. Something like 174th Street, that sidewalk, for example, would need capital funding in order to reconstruct. Ebenezer is correct. We've had those conversations before, and haven't mentioned that capital funding is necessary. For the stretch of 158 to 165th Riverside, I would say it would probably be mixed. The sidewalks and the lighting would probably fall under capital. Other potential safety improvements might not. I know that we're taking a look at that area currently to see what we can do in-house to make that section pedestrian friendly. But, and like I said, those would be things that we would do in-house. But I would say for that stretch of Riverside would probably be a mix, both in-house and capital.
Okay, then I'm gonna leave it on capital, because that's somewhat trickier, I think, than the expense side stuff. Okay, so thank you, Lyle, for that, and thank you, Jody. I know you stuck with us over a lot of meetings at this point. And then
If
I
I
will.
could interject, Debbie, the increased funding in the expenses is, are you talking about fixing lights or adding new lights? Because I think if you're talking about adding new lights, that could be a capital project also. And since it is DOT who does it, I think Lyle could give us some guidance on that as well.
Yeah,
I think it's just fixing what's there, is nice.
Fixing, okay.
And I can confirm with Liz on the, but I think it's about existing light.
Yeah, I think for adding, for the addition of new lights, you would, that would go under capital.
Yeah, but fixing is expense, right?
Yeah, fixing, yeah, more often than not, we can fix, we can fix lights with our in-house with our street lighting division. That stretch of Riverside, we have had requests in the past. If I'm not mistaken, like I said, the addition of street lighting along that stretch more than likely would fall under capital. In particular, I know that we have a request. Yeah, sorry, for the area by the dog run, and that would, for example, fall under capital fund.
All right, so maybe what I'll do is, and maybe this is what Liz meant when I talked to her, and when she sent me a message about it, is that it must be a mix. So I'm going to include it on both, because it sounds like along there it is new lights. So I want to have that covered, or else we're going to really have a problem when we go to the full ranking. If so I'd rather just do it as we think it's going to shake out. Okay, so just give me one sec. And then, so then basically I'm adding to the, oh my goodness. Actually, is there somebody, I'm just having a little multitasking problem. Is there somebody who can just drop in an extra row on the capital side so I can copy over? Usually
I'm not
like
sufficiently familiar with this thing.
I'm a monster user on Excel, but then when I get to Sheets, I'm not that swift.
I'm in the same boat.
Could I say something? This is Maria.
Yeah.
Debbie, maybe this will help or maybe it won't help. But I'm going back to the 158 to 165th Street. Maybe if we can clarify on the description, instead of saying traffic flow, to say to improve the traffic flow by having what do they call it, duck? When they what you call, I think, when they have in front of the building an area where the people they can discharge either merchandise or something like that. What do they call that? And then just improve the lightening on the area. As to just say recommended changes for safety and traffic flow improvement. So that's really not specific. specific enough to, you know, for them to know, for people to vote on this particular item.
Okay.
So it's a docking, what do they call it? Docking, recommended changes for safety and traffic flow improvement. That's really not that clear. We need to make sure that they understand.
No standing zones.
Right, something like
Well,
that.
we're not, I mean, but this isn't, we're not, I'll just take out the traffic flow part because we don't know what, you know, DOT, once they look at it, are recommending. So I don't want to.
If we're gonna vote on that, how do we know that that is really a priority? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I live down here, so I know for me that would be a high priority, but for other people who live, you know, all the way up in Diamond, that it doesn't really make any sense. Improve.
I mean, I think, and I mean, the reason I sort of want to keep in a concept here, I'm just editing it. Tell me if you think that improves it, is that they do have issues of like that roadway gets stopped. I would imagine, like if something's loading, it's so narrow, like it's completely blocked at times. So it's both the safety, which I think ends up being the biggest driver, obviously, to change, is if there's safety issues, but also just,
I think that Bruce, you wanted to do something in front of 800 Riverside Drive. It hasn't happened yet, right?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean, Maria.
Okay, wait. Could somebody just, I've edited the analyze Riverside Drive upper roadway between West 158th and West 165th and make any recommended changes. I can say implement any recommended changes to improve safety and flow of traffic.
A docking, whatever it is that thing is closed, it's called.
I just created a new line for you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you.
See, we work together. Isn't that nice?
Wonderful.
It is nice. Okay, so, all right, so that's DOT. So we now have that as both, I'm sorry, the lighting item. In both capital and expense to contemplate. Sometimes it's going to be, well, whatever, we've covered that. All right, so just in terms of process, we now have Jim. It looks like Jim's already voted. And so just because a few of the committee members wouldn't have been here
Some
last year.
people may have to tell you their votes because they're not going to deal with the spreadsheet.
Right. So if you can access the spreadsheet from where you're at, you should be able to just go in and drop your rankings. Capital request is first, followed by expense requests. Apparently, I thought Wendy Pena had been put on our committee, but she has not been put on our committee. So I'm taking her off. And then Jay and anybody else who needs to let me know, will take your ranking verbally. Are you guys are seeing the spreadsheet on the screen, is that right?
For the capital.
Okay. All right, so I see Leo starting to do his
You know,
stuff.
Debbie,
Yeah.
I can see the spreadsheet, but I can't see the reading. I can't read it.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that something?
And I don't know how to vote because.
Right, okay.
You can vote by telling Debbie what you want to do.
Right, but she's saying she can't.
But I can't see it.
You can't
with
see
stuff
the
to know
list,
what I'm voting
right?
on.
Yeah, yeah. That's well. You could, I don't know, read the list. Oh.
But I mean, can I capture post meeting? You know, does it all have to be now during the meeting? Like
It
as long as I.
ideally has to be now during the meeting.
Yeah, because it's due.
Right, but it's not due tomorrow.
Can I chip in also? I'm sorry, I'm not a member of the committee, but I don't see anything about improving on the 157th Street, the IRT #1 train, the clogging that had to be on the Capitol. After the tornado, there was a swimming pool there, and that should be, you know, they have to correct whatever is wrong on that particular drainage, and that should go on the Capitol, but I don't see anything on the ranking for the capital request. I know that happened recently, but that's very serious. It's in the winter, we have a snowstorms and things like that, that may, you know, bring us to another, you know, crisis on the lower, you know, going downtown on the #1 train and 157th Street IRT. Just for information, so I need.
Yeah, no, it's, that's a good point, and I think I even said I was gonna put that on, heck. Because, and I think that's the only one that we've really heard about. So what Maria's referring to is this idea that, of like sustainability repair or whatever we wanna call it, reconstruction. And 157th has been sort of our most impacted station by these extreme weather events. We haven't, I mean, at one point, I think there was an issue on the Dykeman A train, but it's really not been the case of these, that it's come up again in the way that it has consistently at 157th.
Thank you.
And yeah, no, thank you. That was my miss. I said I was gonna do it and I didn't do it. I knew I was missing something.
Hi, Debbie. I just want to jump in real quick. I mentioned this before you got on the call. Steve Simon and myself are the only two members in the board that can't participate in this process due to our positions in public service overseeing large sums of money. So I cannot vote on any of this stuff. Just to let you know, this was vetted by the Manhattan Borough's President's Office conflicts of interest review. So
no, that makes sense, particularly given the, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to just make a quick comment on what Maria mentioned. If MTA is doing something that like the DOE is doing, we're actually monitoring all damages done by this storm, and we're looking to hopefully achieve federal reimbursement for all damage. So it wouldn't surprise me if 157 would be part of that type of process.
That's true, that it wouldn't come through the city budget. Right. Yeah, and I've asked MTA about this and I didn't get a response, so I'm a little bit, but I think you're right that this wouldn't, it wouldn't come through. Well, it could come through the capital plan. All right, I think we should include it in the ranking now. And Jim, if there's any way you can give me one more row, thank you.
I just did.
Gracias, under capital requests. And then I'll try to do some work about and find out from MTA, if they're gonna have future sustainability capital projects, but if it turns out it's something that will fall entirely under federal funding, excise it later, but I'd rather have it in our rankings now in case it's staying.
If we could try pulling a parliamentary stretch in terms of people having trouble filling it out tonight, we could actually, whether we can really do this or not, I don't know, but we could actually keep our meeting open technically until, I don't know, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and then people could do the spreadsheet and it would still be during the meeting. I mean, that is a bit of a parliamentary stretch, but
Why not? The Senate does it.
Well, we're not the Senate, but one of my keys, as you've heard from me before, is if you do stuff in good faith, that's if you're going to screw around, that's a whole other story. But we're doing this in good faith.
Okay. So, all right, because Mary and I assume Jay can't get in now. We don't have Robin tonight. And Bruce, are you able to do your rankings online? Or are you also seeing it in sort of miniature?
Well, if Robin isn't here tonight, he cannot vote because he won't.
No,
he's not-
I guess what I'm saying
Right.
is just of the people, I'm presuming then, okay, for people that are here, that we're not, that Jay can't get in and Mary can't see the thing, so.
So again, you know,
I have my
think it
hand
wouldn't-
raised.
And Mary,
I still can't see it, but I also don't know how to do the, what you're talking about or what you got, what a couple of people are doing. Putting numbers on there. I don't know how to do that. But I also can't see it.
so, okay.
First, you
so
have
when-
to see it.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is you're just gonna rank 1 through, I think now we've got 8 capital requests and however many expense
And I can't hear you.
requests. Really?
Well,
Is
it's
anybody-
partially me, but I've got my hearing aids turned up and I've got the computer volume turned up.
I can hear you perfectly, Debbie.
Yeah, we can,
Huh.
yeah,
It's
maybe your hearing aids or something.
It's the clarity too.
Huh. All right, so, Mary, I think I should send you, well, you got the link in the email, but I think it would probably be better to go in on your own computer when you can see it for real. And then you're gonna number 1 through 8 on the capital requests and 1 through, I think,
That's all right. I can count how many there are, but
6 on the expense. And you're just gonna drop in the numbers. It's sort of a word table, so you should be able to just drop the numbers in. If you have any issues and you're
I was
able
trying to do that and I can't do it.
I'm
clicking on the
Let me also
spaces. I can't,
check-
I don't know how to do it.
That's fine. Can you print it out? And because if you print it and just do it by hand, you can just snap a picture and send it to me tomorrow and I'll take care of it.
Debbie, you know me, you know better than that. You know, I can't do that either.
You don't have a printer at home?
I have a lot of trouble figuring out how to do that. I have to get help when I do that.
Okay.
Debbie, I
Yeah.
can see it, but I don't understand how I can mark it.
That's my problem. I don't know how to do that. Even
All
if
right.
even if the
I
font
don't
was
think Jay
increased.
can mark it at all, frankly.
right.
Now,
So,
Mary,
can-
do you know how to do spreadsheets or not?
No, I don't.
Well, see, that's what we're doing. We're putting stuff in a spreadsheet. So if you have some friend or someone who could help you with that, or the other thing is, you can see the thing on your screen. So just, you know, make a list of the different topics, or just, you know, say the
can't see
line
it.
numbers.
I can't see it.
No, but I'm saying when you're not on my screen share, I'm just saying when you're after the meeting or
I
at
mean,
some
I
point
can't, the
tomorrow-
font is too small, you know?
You know what? Send her a big picture of it, Debbie, and then she can look at that. And then, you know, you can even call Debbie or me and just read us your things and we can fill it in for you, you know.
Okay.
But you need a big picture that you can see, obviously.
Okay. All right, so we'll get Mary set up with something that's actually readable, which would be nice. I can't believe I've created a totally inaccessible spreadsheet. I mean, one thing though that's interesting about this is it was created in the Word as a Word table, not actually on a spreadsheet. Not that that matters. Okay, Jay, is it possible for you to indicate your rankings right now while we're on the phone? Jay? We had you. I feel I lost you.
I can't actually see it right now since I just unmuted, but if you can bring the picture up and I can see it, I guess I can vote now.
So I feel like I have it up on the screen. Are people not seeing it up?
I don't.
I see it on the screen, Debbie.
I do too.
I do too.
But I don't.
Huh,
Well,
Okay.
then you're in trouble.
Are you able to see it if you click on the link in the email I sent earlier?
Well, actually, that couldn't expand, so I had trouble reading it.
Are you, because you're doing it on your phone?
Let me see if I can, okay?
Okay.
I wish that we weren't been able to have this ahead of time before the meeting to look it over. Because I can't even see what what I might want to add to it. I don't know.
I'm sorry, but the print is so small and it doesn't expand. I can't see it. Let me go back to the meeting and see if it's on the screen now, okay?
Okay.
Yes, do that. See, there's something to be said for in-person meetings, provided we don't have COVID hanging over our heads anymore.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But what I did before my committee meeting is I sent out, like last year's items, to the committee so we could look at it ahead of time.
I may have a solution for the a recommendation, since we have an
My
opportunity.
screen shows Jody Herson,
No, for
Mark Tejada, and Yomaris Smith only.
No, actually, you probably, if you can check a different view, like right now, so it puts the people like off to the side and allows you to see what I'm screen sharing, but like.
Could I have a
like,
suggestion?
Yeah,
You may be
Maria?
seeing their names. See if you can slide what's on your screen
maybe,
around.
let me
And
see
see
if
if you
we.
can try pinching it to make it smaller.
Okay, so Jim, maybe we can agree to something to make the meeting maybe shorter. Since these are the recommendation by the committee, we are going to have an opportunity to vote as members of the board. At that point, then we can rank whatever issues that were added to the to the discussion, and not necessarily the ranking of the committee, but like a personal, a vote.
That's not the way,
No,
that's not the way to do it.
this.
Well,
No,
but
we
this
should do it
has-
at the meeting tonight. And like I said, I don't think anyone will be offended if we extend the meeting
Yeah, no, we're definitely gonna extend the meeting, because I don't
for
want.
voting purposes.
Yeah, no, I want, and we did that last year. We had a member who was at that couldn't get
Okay.
it done that night, and so I
Then
don't
we can
want,
claim it as our practice to do so,
since
since we can't use precedent anymore.
and,
Can't say that word.
okay, so do we need to do anything else to, keep the meeting open? And,
Basically,
then-
when we get to the end of the meeting, we will vote to adjourn it in terms of voting at 5 p.m. tomorrow night. And in all other ways, the meeting will be closed.
okay,
And, if they come after me with guns and whips and whatever, then I'll run real fast.
all right, I'm trying to just make things a little bigger. Okay, so I will, make this, I just tried to, I have to still reformat it, but I made it a little bit bigger type. And
And
so.
this is our last item of business.
This is our last item of business, and I feel like we've touched upon anything that
Okay.
was, yeah.
So someone will email me or text me the materials so I can write them down and vote on them, or call you up and tell you my priorities in the morning?
That would be great. Is it, because what I can also do is I can sort of print it to a PDF and then you can just create something by hand. I don't mind working off a picture of like a hand written thing. Would that be easier to just kind of not have it in the sort of spreadsheet form?
No, I saw it just fine. It just isn't on my screen anymore. As
Okay.
long as
All right.
I can read it, I can call up you or Jim Berlin and tell you how I'm voting on it.
Okay. All right. So Jim, can I ask you to
He
get,
can call me. He can call me tomorrow. Obviously.
yeah, and then
Hopefully,
I'll work with Mary. And
but you have to
capture-
send him.
Yes.
You're gonna send him
Yeah,
you're gonna
both,
send something
yeah.
him something he can read, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you got that, Jay? You're gonna get an email from Debbie that you should be able to read. It should have all the different, subjects on it, and then you'll call me not before 9:30 tomorrow morning, and I can put your numbers
That's
in.
very good. I've recently learned how to read.
This is good.
All right, guys. So with that, I'd like to wrap this up and I'd like to adjourn. So this is like the last call for committee members. If there was anything that you want us to be thinking about for new business, and actually, Leo, if you don't mind, can I bump your update to the next meeting?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine with me, Debbie.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that because this went a little longer than I anticipated, which is on me.
No worries.
All right. Mary,
Debbie,
did
I
you
have-
have- yeah.
I have just one thing for Lyle, if I can throw that in before I can't speak to him anymore.
Of course.
Lyle,
here.
on 173rd and Haven,
Mm-hmm.
there's a good a good deep pothole there, all of a sudden.
Okay, is it on the park side or is it on the
In the middle of the cross, as you're crossing on 173rd. I mean, like from corner to corner.
Oh, okay. So
Not
it's
crossing Haven, but crossing from the park,
173rd. Oh, okay, so it's on 173rd as you're kind of like north to south, that kind of.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I'll see if we can get that addressed.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
That's it, Deb, thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, with that, this meeting will adjourn after voting concludes at 5, but for everything else, we're closed for everything else. I'll look forward to seeing people in November, including DOT on the busway, and yeah, and I'll try to wrap this capital stuff, and I'll see everybody at the general meeting. So thanks everybody for being here tonight and sticking with us through this process.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Night.
Thanks, Chanel.